What's going on, guys? Dyslexic Doodlebob here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are all having an incredible day. If you are, press the like button. Okay, our likes are down. I don't know what's going on with you guys, if your thumbs are broken, if all of you got in an unfortunate Chinese finger trap accident where you were sitting there trying desperately to get out of that little paper mache trap, only to watch your thumb snap in half and now you can't press buttons. But you guys need to press that button, okay? Because if you don't, I'm not even kidding, my kids are going to starve. Cyrus is right here. Cyrus, what happens if they don't press the like button?
We'll fucking starve, dude.
Today I'm going to be telling you guys the story of a time a wannabe gangster really pulled up to class on some brah chief keef, I don't like, and then got roasted by my teacher. You know, my teachers in my school were really hit or miss. I either loved them and got along with them really well, or they were the type of teachers that make me want to watch Caillou for 47 hours straight with toothpicks holding open my eyes so I'm being brainwashed by a bald child on PBS. And you know, this experience is no exception. This was one of my favorite teachers. He was just an old man. I've already talked about him once or twice. He was a really chill dude, just an old math teacher who had no cares in the world. He was retiring and just really was just not pressed about anything ever. Was really the type of teacher to just like swear at kids because he's like, oh well, I'm retiring, what are they gonna do, fire me? Dang, I'll get to retire 3 months early. He was not pressed about anything going on in his classroom ever. So there was this one kid in this class who just thought he was a gangster, you know the kid that like grew up and was like, oh man, I'm from the hood, when in reality his dad was like a banker or a real estate agent who did nothing but buy them really nice things, and somehow this kid still thought he had it bad. Like Eminem would talk about how hard it was growing up on the streets, and he'd be like, yeah man, my parents bought me a bike that was 2 years old. What am I supposed to do, look like a poor kid? There was plenty of those kids at my school. My school was a pretty bougie area, so there was not really, the type of kids that actually had a rough childhood, like everybody really had it easy. And like, I know what you're thinking, oh, some people can have it hard. But like I said, we had all gone to elementary school and stuff together, so we all knew everyone's parents. And there was this kid who just thought he was a gangster, even though his dad was literally like the real estate agent who sold everyone in town their houses. Like, this kid did not have a rough childhood. And just to paint you a picture, he got dropped off at school by his stay-at-home mom in a Bentley every morning. Like, this kid was not living the rough life, but for some reason he watched 8 Mile and decided to pretend to be Eminem growing up in a shack like he had never ever had anything but dino chicken nuggets and mac and cheese for dinner, which isn't even that bad of a life. Like, let's be honest, if my mom wanted to make me nothing but mac and cheese and chicken nuggets for the rest of my life, I'd honestly be kind of stoked. Like, I don't know, that sounds like a pretty lit life. But anyways, this kid, who I'm gonna call Brian for the story, was just convinced that his life was hard, and he started acting out a lot in high school too. Like, his parents were super affluent, driving Bentleys and stuff. Our school was bougie, but he was convinced he had a rough childhood and acted like it. Like, he would get in fights all the time and just start fights with people for like no reason, Like, you'd be standing in lunch line trying to get some good dino chicken nuggets, and Brian would be like, yo bro, you staring at me funny, you trying to fight? And you'd be like, no, I wasn't staring at you, I was staring at those chicken nuggets. Do you see how delectable those little tenders are? I want some nuggets in my mouth right now. That's what she said, but not really, because Brian wasn't a she. Well, he might be now. I haven't talked to him. And like, you know what? If he did switch up, then like, that's fine. I understand. No hard feelings. Like, good for you, man. Be who you are. Be who you want to be. That's the only advice that matters in life. But regardless, this kid was just always acting out. And my math teacher was about to retire and was having none of it. And this kid would just constantly act out in his class. He would always be like, I don't know why we have to learn this stuff. On the streets, we didn't have to learn this. It's like, Brian, you're not from the streets. You do have to learn math. What, you think your dad's real estate business has no accounting? You're too dumb to sell a house, so eventually when he gives you a job, it's got to be in something practical, because no one's going to buy a house from you because you're less likable than Candace. Can we talk about Candace from Phineas and Ferb for a moment? That girl was a snitch. Her brothers were really just trying to build a roller coaster, and she went, nah, roller coasters are lame. I'm gonna call mom and shut this down before OSHA gets here. Like, really, Candace? You're a snitch. Your brothers are geniuses building cool stuff every day, and you're really out here trying to ruin their summer vacation. Like, honestly, people who like Candace, you're probably a terrible person. And if you do like Candace, unsubscribe, because you're probably a snitch. But yeah, like I said, this kid would just act up all the time and just disrupt the class. And like, I understand if you're an old man who's been teaching math for 40 years, how annoying it's got to be for kids to be like, why are we learning this? Because, listen, I'm an old man. I'm trying to teach math class. I don't care why we're learning it. I get paid to teach you it. So shut up, sit down, learn some math, or get out. You show up for this class every day. If you really hate math that much, don't show up. I don't care. I'll fail you anyways. But whatever, Brian would constantly come and disrupt the class and just have an issue. And my teacher was usually really, really nice to the kid. I don't know why. Like, maybe his dad sold him a house or something. That's probably it, to be honest, because, he sold everybody houses. But he was always really, really nice to the kid, even when he would disrupt the class and just do annoying stuff. And there was even sometimes, I can understand being annoyed at why you have to learn stuff if you don't think it's going to be important. Like the quadratic formula, I've never, ever use that for anything. I could understand asking that question, but it would be like, here's how you balance a checkbook, and Brian would be like, oh, when am I ever going to have to use this? All the time, Brian, all the time, because you're not as smart as your brother and your father, and you're not getting any of the real estate money, you depressing old man. I guess he was young, but you guys get the idea. And so my math teacher was usually pretty chill with him, pretty respectful, and would just be like, here's why we have to learn it. But towards the end of the year, he was getting even more fed up because now he's just weeks from retirement. And that's got to feel so good. For the next 30 years of your life, you don't have to work. You don't got to take orders from kids anymore. You're going to have no angry parents in your emails. I'd be snapping on every kid that looked at me funny. I'd be out in the hallway. If I saw a couple making out, I'd push their heads together and say, no one wants to see that. Go behind the bleachers or something like that. If I saw a pregnant girl, I'd be like, yo, that's a big mistake, and so are you, lol. Like, I mean, if I was about to retire as a teacher, I'd really be wiling out on every student that pissed me off even a little bit. And that's basically what he was doing. So people with a brain kind of kept their heads down and did their best to not piss him off, because pissing off an angry teacher who's about to retire just doesn't seem like a good idea. But Brian, of course, didn't get the memo, and one day we were sitting there in this math lesson doing our best to learn. Be students, if some would say. And Brian decides that the wise idea with this old man about to retire is to insult not only what we're learning, but how he's teaching it. He goes, bro, this is stupid and you're a terrible teacher. Out of nowhere, by the way. Like, we were really sitting there learning some math, and Brian decides to just pop off. Oh, I feel so bad about that. Anyways, decides to pop off and call this old man a terrible teacher who should probably have retired a couple years ago because he can't teach math anymore. And listen, I'm not a fan of math. The teacher was not horrible. Like, in all things considered, I'm really not a fan of school, but the teacher was pretty solid. So Brian pops off and starts mouthing off to this guy about he's a terrible teacher and he's wasting all of our time and none of the stuff he ever teaches us matters, and how when we graduate, we're never going to remember him and his whole career has been a waste. Like, just really mean stuff. Imagine working at a job for 30, 40 years and then someone just starts going after you, telling you that your job is stupid and how, like, you're a terrible teacher and no one likes you. That would be terrible to hear, especially when you're about to retire. I'm not going to lie, that would hurt my feelings. But regardless, and without missing a beat, my math teacher just turns around at the whiteboard, looks him in the eyes, face to face, mano y mano, compadre y compadre, and says, and I quote, 7 years ago. No, I'm just kidding. He looks at him and he says, Brian, I taught your mom when she was in high school, and judging by how many guys were constantly flirting for her attention, I wouldn't be surprised if your dad is not your dad. This ancient 35-year-old Franklin the Turtle looking man basically just said, Brian, your mom was a hoe when she was your age. I don't know if your dad's your dad, but he's not done. You might be thinking, words have been said, exchanges done, but no. And he says next, and also, you know how you pretend that your life's been difficult? Trust me, I know your father. Your life is easier than anybody else's here in this classroom. And if you keep complaining about my teaching methods and anything else, I will contact your father and tell him what an ungrateful snot you've been all year. And Brian instantly shuts up because I guess he's scared of his daddy or whatever. I mean, I'm scared of my daddy, but that's for a different reason. That was a joke, by the way. Please don't take that out of context. That would make me very upset. But Brian, getting absolutely obliterated in front of the entire class, actually does the smart thing for once. Usually when people get insulted by teachers, they decide to keep fighting back, but after getting eviscerated and told that his mother was quite the hoe in her heyday, he decides to shut his mouth, apologize, and does not look up from his desk for the rest of the class. Like, instantly, I'm sorry, sir, and just shuts his mouth. And in that moment, I knew that Brian wasn't as stupid as we pretended he was. He knew when to keep his mouth shut, and that's really half the battle of life, is knowing when to shut up because you're drastically outmatched by an old man who's seen more things in the last 47 hours than we've seen in our lifetime. But Brian actually got eviscerated, intestines dragged out in front of the entire class by my old math teacher, and actually was pretty bearable after that. Kind of dropped the whole I'm hard and my life is difficult act. I think it was actually a pretty good wake-up call, and I don't know if my math teacher ever had to call his dad, but whenever somebody threatens to call your parents, they're not playing games. Like, listen, white kids are terrified of their parents. At least I am. I mean, look, if someone was going to snitch to my dad, I'd be scared. And I'm 20. Like, I'm still afraid of me getting snitched on at 20 years old. Me at, 16? Terrified. But regardless, guys, Brian, you know, if you're watching this, I hope everything's worked out. I know your rap career never really took off, probably because you made songs with your iPhone microphone and GarageBand beats, like the default beats. But hey, you know, I hope everything works out eventually with your dad's real estate business. On that note, guys, that's going to do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, like button. Like I said, press it. Otherwise, Cyrus and I are going to starve. And yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video. Don't get anyone pregnant. And if you do, make sure they're incredibly hot. I'm out. Peace.